Hello everybody, welcome back, and we are starting on the chicken coop. Is that some of y'all following the channel, my channel? I got some chickens, and whenever I started talking about building the coop, some of y'all asked me to post a video on it, so here it is. We started out with a table. Is that I do not have sawhorses, nor do I feel like buying sawhorses for this project, nor do I feel like building sawhorses for this project. We had this table, so that's what we're going to use. As I started out with 4 2x4 corner posts. These are going to be the corner posts of the coops. I tried to find the straightest board and put it out here on the outside. Just see how this one here has got a little bit of a bow in it. So this one here went on this far side. The straightest one went over here on this side. Then took a framing square. Then I squared the boards up across the bottom using the straightest one. This way we can measure all the boards at one time, then use a framing square to draw a line. And this is my good framing squares up at the camp, using this old rusty one that I had in the shed, but it'll work just fine. What we're going to do is we're going to put a board across the bottom so that these don't go into the ground with weight on them. Then we're going to come up and measure up 36 inches for the height of the hardware cloth, and then another 1.5 inches for the board. And what it is we're going to be using a piece of plywood coming down, and we won't, well anyway, I'll show y'all later. I'll show that to y'all later. All right, let's start marking. We've measured up our 36-inch line plus another 1.5 inches, measured over 1.5 inches from one side, and these marks that I put on here designate that the board is supposed to go on that side of the line, and that these are mirrored. These are supposed to be mirror images of each other. So whenever I turn this one up, and I measured over 1.5 inches there, whenever I turn that one up, that they should be the same with 1.5 inches from there and from there. So they're mirror images of each other. And then the same thing here, is that this is 1.5 inches, this is 1.5 inches, and whenever we turn them up, they'll be mirror images of each other, just like opposites. I drew my lines down here at the end of the boards in the wrong angle. I wasn't, just a little lapse of thought. I was thinking, well, I drew them this way. They were supposed to be this way, because you don't want your board sitting like that. I want to be able to attach the hardware cloth to it. And this is how the long side of the chicken coop be 6 feet inside to inside. We have our 2 long walls built. This is out of treated lumber, and this is 37 inches tall. And these are just kind of tacked together. What it is I want from the bottom, I want the hardware cloth to come right here in the middle of the board. Then for the coop section, I want the plywood to overlap here. So the plywood is going to come to about halfway. The hardware cloth is going to come up and meet it. And both of them can be secured together so there's no gap. I didn't want the plywood to stop up here and then have to put another board to nail the plywood into. And then the hardware cloth come all the way up here, so I just split the difference. I put the hardware cloth coming right about the middle and the plywood coming right about the middle. So we go through and secure both of them to the board going down. And this one board will be the stop of the hardware cloth and the start of the coop. Now it's just a matter of cutting some of the short runners so the coop will be 4 feet wide, standing these up, and then nailing everything together. This board for the short section, we are not cutting this 4 foot long. We're cutting it 45 instead of 48, because here's our other 3 inches. There's 1.5 inches there. There's 1.5 inches there. So 45 plus 1.5 inches plus 1.5 inches will be our 48 inches. So we're not cutting these boards, the short boards, 48. We're cutting them 45. We're able to get 2 short ones out of 1 treated 2x4. Look. go. The 8-penny nails just are not holding, but that's all that I had to start with. My wife was at work today, so I just did what I had to get the project started. We'll come back and put some better nails in here. Right, come on over here. There we go. For those of you that are wondering how this is going to work, this is 6 feet wide. With 6 feet, I should be able to get 5 lane boxes 14.5 inches wide. I'm going to notch this out. Right here, this is going to be the lane box. Then here's a hardware cloth. Hardware cloth is going to go right there. That's how it's going to go. They'll have a 11.5, about 14-inch lane box, and then 3 foot of area where they can stand. Over here is going to be the trap door where they can go down and go out into the run that's going to be installed later. Before we get too far, we need to make sure that the coop is square, and the bottom is where I squared it off first. And what you do is you measure from the point on one corner to the point on the other corner, and then measure from the point on the other corner to the point on this corner. And I came out with about 86 3/8 on one side and 86 3/4 on the other side, so it was a 1/4 inch out of square, so I needed to move it 1/8 of an inch. Just a couple of light taps on the corner, and it came up to about 86.5 inches corner to corner, and about 86.5, 86 3/8 from corner to corner. Now that we know the base is square, I've got some C-clamps on there to kind of apply some pressure. What it is after I get it mostly assembled, I'm going to take some drywall screws. I like screws because they don't pull out like nails do. It's just the way that I like to do things. We're going to put some nails in here, and then we're going to go back and drill some 1/8 pilot holes, and then we're going to put some good like drywall screws, but maybe galvanized. See, that needs to come up just a little bit. Got the C-clamp on there so it doesn't move so much. But I've got some 10-penny. I started out with some 8-penny nails, but that's all that I had. I sent my wife a message at lunch to see if she could run me out some 10 and 12-penny nails, and she did. She brought me some good 12-penny nails, and it's holding a lot better now. I've got the lane box over here built, well, laid out. I'm coming out to about 15 inches by 11.5 inches. Then I'm going to have a piece of 1 by 12 up here like this. All right, well let me secure this top a little bit more. I've got a 2-foot level, an old 2-foot level, and 2-foot levels are not real good for wood because it could have a bow, and it's just about dead level on the bottom also. Because the wood can have a bow right there, but my 4-foot level is up at the camp. I was using it to work on my brother's barbecue pit. We've got our lane boxes laid out. Is that this line didn't work out, so I scribbled through it. Had some other marks on here. They weren't going to work out on the measurements. The way it worked out is that I'm going to have a lane box 15 inches long to the center, and then minus 3/8 on each side. This is a piece of pine 1 by 12, so we're looking, well, I guess they reduced the size of 1 by 12s again. This is only measuring 11.25 inches. I thought 1 by 12s are supposed to be 11.5. All right, well, there goes a 1/4 inch. Then we've got a 1 by 4 that we're going to be putting up here like this. We've got our gusset for our divider. It's going to go in there like that. And then we'll take another piece of 1x12 and put up here on the top. That leaves an entrance of about maybe 8 inches tall or so. To keep from splintering the wood, I'm going to drill a 3/32 pilot hole. 1/8 seemed a little bit too big for the screws that I was using. It's just something about it. I like to use screws because I know they're not going to pull out. And if they do pull out, then something's wrong. I like to use screws. And here's the screws that we're going to be using, kind of like a drywall type of screw. We got this at Parker's Lumber. It's a Do-It screw pack. What are we? Number 8, 2-inch long screws. I'm going to drill 2 holes. Well, not 2, but 3 holes on each divider to keep the wood from splintering, and then I'll screw it into the gusset. Here are the laying boxes. Now this board up here is going to be to keep the eggs and the laying material from rolling out. Right now it's not screwed on. I've got my drill went dead, so I'm recharging it. Up here on the top, I'm going to put me like a 1x12 right here, sloping down, or a piece of plywood. Right here, back here in the back, I'm going to have a piece of 1x, say about 1.5 inches up. Then the door is going to be right here where I drop it down, and I'll reach in here, and to clean the laying boxes out, I'll just scoop it out and go underneath the board that's going to be right here. I'm going to move this up. This 2x4 in the back is a little bit warped. I've got like 3/4 of an inch here and about 3/8 of an inch here, so I'm going to have to straighten that out a little bit. I'm going to put a 2x4 underneath here, underneath the front of it, for support in the front, so there won't be any sag right there. And I cut these a little bit too big. I've got a gap right here. I did not intend for there to be a gap there. I wanted this with the flap or the back door. The entrance to the laying boxes is going to be right here. I moved it up so I could put a 1x4 right here. Well, whenever I did, it moved this up the same amount that I'm moving this up. So I've got a couple of pieces of extra wood over there I'm going to take and put up underneath here and just block it out. That way no mice or snakes or anything can come up through there. But I did not mean for that to have such a big gap in it. It's just I wasn't thinking at the time. Alright, but there we go. Still got the C-clamps on it, trying to help hold everything together till I get the boards like this on there to help reinforce everything. This is day 2, and yesterday evening my wife and I put a coat of, what is this stuff, exterior latex on top of the boards that the chickens are going to be crapping on most of the time. We wanted something that we could just wash off and keep the wood, keep the manure or waste from eating at the wood. Even though it's treated lumber, I wanted that extra layer of protection. Got the chicken wire down, not chicken wire, but this is hardware cloth, 1/2 inch square hardware cloth. Here are the laying boxes. This is the board. Remember I said that I cut this one here a little bit wrong. I put this outside board on. To help square it up, I took these 2x4 scabs, just remnants. All they are is just drops, and cut them on a 45-degree angle and screwed them in. They're not, just in case we have to break them loose, I only put 1 screw in there. Whenever we go to put the plywood on, I'm using a 1/8 drill bit, drilling a 1/8 pilot hole down and sinking these screws in right there at the top of this laying box. Might have to screw that down. Anyway, I've got a 2x4 right here in the middle. Then I've got pilot holes. I will be putting a couple of screws to cinch this laying box down. I've got a board up here on the top that'll be put on here, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap right there for ventilation, so as the heat, if the body heat of the chicken builds up in here, it'll be able to vent through a little vent right here that I'm not going to seal up. And that's just a piece of pine, 2x12, so it'll go from right about there to maybe an inch or so, and it'll give the laying box a little bit of ventilation here on the front. Here we have the laying boxes. I've got some material in there just to see how it's going to work out. This is the front board to help keep the shavings from going out. Then back here we've got a board with a 3/4 inch crack. Do what, Joe? What? Do we what? Yeah, there's a little crack over here. It's on purpose. I did. I put a piece of 3/4 inch board right there so that whenever it comes time to clean out, we'll have a 1x12 right here that's going to drop down. Then we'll reach in between the plywood and the 1x12, reach in and get the eggs, and if it's dirty, then we just take and just push that out to the bottom, clean it out, and then raise the 1x12 back up and latch it back in place. We've got the hardware cloth. We use some galvanized staples, but these aren't by a staple gun, these are drove in by hand. The hardware cloth goes right up against the nesting boxes, so there's no gap. Now we're ready to put the top. Yeah, now we're ready to put the top of the nesting boxes on. This is the end of the second day. We've got our boxes built. We've got the hardware cloth down and stapled. We've got the laying boxes built. Notice the good slope. Big gobs of paint my wife put on there. There is the slope of the roof. I've got some C-clamps holding the board up there that I'm using to look at the roof to see what kind of slope I should give it. We'll be working on that tomorrow, working on putting the walls up. We've got this one side here with the hardware cloth. I'm probably going to put another gusset over here on this side. Maybe put a few more staples in here. Figuring about 6 inches of overhang with a 6-inch slope over the course or over the width of the chicken coop. And then, guys, that's the end of the second day. We didn't get a whole lot done today. My daughter had a beauty pageant that she was putting on for teenage girls, and we did get the plywood. We're using 3/8 plywood on the sides. We're going to paint that tomorrow. We're going to cut it out the size that we need, get it painted. Notice the 2x4s underneath the plywood so it's not sitting flat on the ground. Alright, guys and gals, there it is, end of day 2, and tomorrow will be the 3rd day, and hopefully the last day we'll be able to get the chickens out here.